Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing something super simple, scallion pancakes. To start this dish, I have 2 cups of all-purpose flour. We're adding in half of a teaspoon of kosher salt and giving this a really good mix. Next, we're going to drizzle in half of a cup of boiling water. This is going to start that gluten formation, as well as start cooking our flour. I'm using chopsticks to stir this, but you can use a wooden spoon or a spatula, whatever you're comfortable with. Now we can go in with a 1/4 cup of cold water, and I do this in increments because you may not use all of your water and you can always add more. Once your dough is cooled down enough, get in there with your hands and just start bringing this dough together. We are going to knead this for about 5 minutes, and you should have a pretty clean bowl by the time those 5 minutes are done. All the ingredients for this recipe are in the description box below if you want to try to make this at home. So after 5 minutes, we're going to cover this with a tea towel and let this rest for 20 minutes. Now let's work on our scallions, because you can't have scallion pancakes without scallions. I'm just cutting off the root end as well as that top end as well. I save the roots because I put them in water to regrow more scallions, and I'll save those top ends for stock or for garnish. Once we have our scallions prepped, we can cut these in half. Then we can bundle them all up and give them a nice little choppity chop. We're only going to need about a cup of scallions, so you may not use all of these, but you can use them to garnish other dishes as well. And we can pop these in a bowl and set this aside while we work on the paste that we're going to brush on the inside of our pancakes. Now for this paste, I have a 1/4 cup plus 2 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, adding in 3/4 teaspoon of kosher salt and a 1/4 cup of peanut oil. Now what this is going to do is keep the inside of this pancake nice and chewy. And once you mix this all together, I'm not going to lie, it does look like wood glue, but it does serve a purpose. That's ready. Now let's work on our sauce. So for our dipping sauce, I have 3 tablespoons of soy sauce, 2 tablespoons of black vinegar. You could just use regular rice wine vinegar if you like, 1/2 teaspoon of sugar. I'm going to grate in 1/2 teaspoon of ginger. If you don't like ginger, just leave that out. I just like that flavor. We're just going to give this a really good mix until all that sugar dissolves and that ginger gets integrated throughout. We're also going to give this a taste and adjust the seasoning as needed. Now it's been 20 minutes, we can take out our dough, plop it on our bench, and we're going to knead this for another minute just to make it a little bit more pliable. Then we are going to roll this into a thick log and portion this into 6 sections. They don't have to be super even. Once we have all our portions, we're going to roll these into little balls. Now, since we're only working one piece at a time, we're going to plop the rest of these into a Ziploc or put them under a little plastic wrap to keep them moist. Now we can take this one little piece. You shouldn't have to flour your bench, but if you find things are sticking, feel free to sprinkle a little flour. We're going to roll this out into a 6 by 10-ish rectangular shape. It doesn't have to be perfect. It should be pretty thin though. Once that's achieved, we can add a tablespoon of our flour and oil mixture and just spread this out as evenly as possible, but you want to leave a 1-inch gap on the edge furthest away from you. This is going to help us stick together our roll once we're finished rolling it up. And now we're going to add our scallions in an L shape, and there's a reason for this. Don't overfill your pancake because it will burst open. So working from the edge closest to you, we're going to start rolling this up. And then that edge with the most scallions, just start sealing this as you're rolling it. And we just want to roll this up into a nice little tube. And when you get to the end, give this a good little roll, and that should seal it. Now we're going to press as much of that air out as possible, just working from the back and pushing towards the front. And now we're going to start rolling this like a sticky bun. This is going to form all those gorgeous little layers in our pancake. Once we have our little bun, we're going to flatten that. Take our pin and then roll this again into a 7 or 8-inch disc. Just take your time. If scallions fall out, that's perfectly fine. It's bound to happen. Now, if you're not planning on eating these right away, they do freeze really well. So how I like to store them is with parchment in between so they don't stick, and then put them in a Ziploc, freeze them, and when we're ready to eat them, defrost them for 8 minutes and proceed with cooking. Now, over medium heat, I have this little crepe pan. You don't have to use a crepe pan, just use whatever pan you have. We're coating it with a little peanut oil, plopping in one of our pancakes, covering this up with the lid, and letting this cook for about a minute. Then we're going to flip our pancake, let it cook for an additional minute covered, and we're going to repeat this process until we get nice little char marks on the outside. Now I've only cooked 3 and I've frozen the other 3 for later. Just be careful because these are hot coming off the stove. I'm going to portion this into quarters, and you can see how beautiful these little pancakes look. Crispy on the outside, light little layers on the inside. Just plating them on a little plate with a little side dish of our dipping sauce. These char marks are gorgeous, and the layers look pretty good. So let's go ahead and give this a taste. I can tell by pulling this apart how chewy this is going to be in the middle. The outside is light and crispy. The inside is chewy and tender, and those scallions are absolutely delicious. The dipping sauce just adds just a little extra something. These would be perfect without the dipping sauce as well. But it is satisfying, delicious, and exactly what I wanted. And this will beat any takeaway pancake that you've had. But there they are, scallion pancakes with dipping sauce. I hope you all try to make these. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a like. If you loved it, subscribe and hit that notification bell because I put out new videos every Thursday. Thank you again, and until next time, happy cooking.